The fitness industry in 2026 has a volume addiction. 6 days a week, 20 sets per muscle, 2-hour workouts. More is better, is what they think. But here's the uncomfortable truth. More is not better. More is often the exact reason you're not growing. Because muscle doesn't respond to how long you train, it responds to how deep you stimulate. And today I'm going to break down why the more is better philosophy is keeping people stuck in what actually builds size. So let's go over the myth of more. There's a massive obsession right now with volume. More sets, more exercises, more training days, longer sessions. But here's the truth. More work does not automatically mean more growth. Movement is not hypertrophy, sweat is not hypertrophy, and fatigue is not hypertrophy. Only effective mechanical tension with full motor unit recruitment creates hypertrophy. And this is where junk volume comes in. Junk volume is any work that increases fatigue without increasing fiber recruitment. It's the extra sets you perform after the target muscle has already received its maximum effective stimulus. It's when you keep going, not because the signal needs to be stronger, but because the program says 5 sets. At that point, you're no longer amplifying growth. You're accumulating systemic fatigue. Here's what happens physiologically. The first truly hard set, taken close to or to failure, recruits the majority of available motor units. But instead of recovering from that powerful signal, most lifters stack more sub-maximal sets on top of it. Now at this point, fatigue rises faster than stimulus. Recovery resources get diluted, the nervous system becomes taxed, connective tissues take on unnecessary strain, and you leave the gym feeling destroyed, but not necessarily stimulated. More volume feels productive, but productivity in bodybuilding isn't measured by exhaustion, it's measured by adaptation, and adaptation requires a strong signal, followed by recovery, not endless work. Now let's talk about the physiology behind that signal. Specifically, the physiology of failure. There's a principle called the size principle of motor unit recruitment. Your body recruits muscle fibers in order, from low threshold to high threshold. Low threshold motor units handle lighter effort. High threshold motor units, the largest, strongest fibers with the most growth potential, are only recruited when force demands are extremely high, meaning you must exhaust the small fibers first. This is why sub-maximal training often falls short. If you stop when it burns, if you stop when it gets uncomfortable, if you stop when the rep speed slows, you may never force the nervous system to recruit the deepest fiber pools. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Early in a set, you feel metabolic stress, the pump, the burn, the swelling. But in the final few inches of a hard rep, when the weight barely moves, the stimulus shifts. Bar speed slows dramatically, force demand spikes, high threshold motor units finally engage. That grinding rep, the one that feels like it might not move, is often the most productive part of the set. And when you reach true concentric failure, meaning another full rep is physically impossible, you create a neurological event. Hormonal signaling spikes, motor unit recruitment peaks, the growth signal is loud. Compare that to multiple sub-maximal sets. They create fatigue, but they often fail to repeatedly access those deepest fibers. Intensity is the multiplier. Volume is just the vehicle. So let's go ahead and go over the high intensity blueprint. So how do we structure training around this? Step 1, pre-exhaustion. Before your compound lift, perform a controlled isolation movement for the target muscle. This ensures the target muscle becomes the weak link, not the supporting muscles. If triceps fail before chest in a press, chest growth is limited. Pre-exhaust the chest first. Now when you press, the chest is forced to fail. Step 2, tempo and control standards. No bouncing, no explosive cheating, and no momentum. Use a 2-second controlled concentric or lifting of the weight, a brief pause, and 3 to 4 second controlled eccentric or lowering of the weight. Using momentum shifts the tension away from muscle and into leverage and connective structures, which we do not want. Using control keeps tension on the contractile tissue. So step 3 is going to be to extend beyond concentric failure. So once you can't complete another full rep, the set is not automatically over. You can transition into isometric holds at the strongest joint angle for 10 to 20 seconds. So this is holding the weight in a static position and then using slow eccentric overrides, resisting the weight down for 5 to 8 seconds. This pushes fiber recruitment beyond standard failure. One properly executed set like this can replace 4 average ones. So let's go ahead and move on to systemic recovery and adaptation. Here's what most people miss. Muscle soreness is not the limiting factor in recovery. Your central nervous system is. The CNS regulates motor unit recruitment, coordination, hormonal output, and recovery capacity. When you train with true high intensity, the CNS is heavily taxed, and it requires more rest than your muscles might suggest. Recent discussions around ultra-low frequency training show something powerful. When high intensity is genuinely maximal, training a muscle once every 5 to 7 days can outperform high frequency splits. And why? Because chronic inflammation in connective tissue decreases, CNS fatigue dissipates fully, hormonal signaling stabilizes, and when you constantly train with volume, the body remains in repair mode. But when you reduce volume and increase intensity, the body shifts into overcompensation mode. This is where you grow. This is where you grow in size and strength. So, not just fixing damage, but rebuilding stronger. Doing less isn't weakness. It's strategic allocation of recovery resources. So, this is the mindset of singular focus. This style of training requires a mental shift. You're not getting through a workout. You're preparing for a singular event. One maximal output effort per movement. Instead of pacing yourself for multiple sets, you conserve focus and your energy and unleash it in one controlled assault. To break through the psychological quit point, visualize the final reps before the set begins. Control breathing between reps and eliminate all distractions. And most importantly, differentiate discomfort from shutdown. Pain is voluntary. Failure is involuntary. True failure is when the muscle stops responding, not when it starts burning. When you reach that state under strict control, the signal's undeniable. And the long-term benefit? Reduced joint wear, less connective tissue strain, lower chronic inflammation. You trade chronic volume for acute precision, and precision builds longevity. So, the myth of more has kept people very busy, but busy is not the same as effective. Muscle growth demands intensity, precision, and recovery, not marathon sessions. Exhaust the low threshold fibers, force high threshold recruitment, control the tempo, respect systemic recovery. Do less, but do it with everything, because muscle doesn't grow from time invested, it grows from signal strength. And one perfectly executed set can change your physique more than an hour of distracted volume ever could. So, take this into consideration with your further training. Document your training, try this out, and see how it works for you. I guarantee you, you will progress better than you ever have. If you stayed to the end of the video, I appreciate you so much. Go ahead and drop a like, comment, subscribe, and share this with a friend to teach them something new. I appreciate you guys, and stay tuned for more.